Good evening. You probably think I'm going to speak tonight about malaria or an interesting sex act or maybe a combination, but I'm not. I'm going to speak to you tonight about changing the world. I've always believed that we can change the world. I'm curiosity-driven. I love to make a local impact. I love to make a global impact. I love to travel. I love to volunteer. I love to connect with other people, and I love to photograph our world. In college, we held a come-as-you-will-be party, and I dressed for the Peace Corps. Well, I have yet to join the Peace Corps, but in 1997, I found a way to serve 1 week at a time through an organization called Global Volunteers. My first experience was in Metcalfe, Mississippi, a town of 1,400 African Americans. Our volunteer group consisted of 10 Caucasian women, ages 17 to 84, none of whom knew each other. I loved the dynamic and the connections we made and how the community embraced us. I then trained as a volunteer team leader, and I've learned a lot more about the organization and its objectives around promoting peace, justice through mutual understanding. And we do that by enabling volunteers to work directly alongside local people. My first team leading experience was in Costa Rica. We always work at the direction of the local community. It's got to be about their priorities. This village wanted to entice their young people to stick around and not flee to the big city, so they asked us to help build a community center, which we did with a series of volunteers, a series of teams, and a number of years. One year I submitted Greece as my top choice, and they sent me to Poland. I love watching volunteers who are afraid to teach realize that we can all learn from one another. Now I'm going to take you on a journey out west to the Blackfeet Indian Reservation. This is Browning, Montana, 13 miles from Glacier National Park. Most of that sacred land was sold to the U.S. government in 1895 for about $1.5 million. The Blackfeet had to sell because they were starving. Some might argue that the Blackfeet are still starving, but I can tell you firsthand that they're rich. They're rich in grace, in culture, in tradition, in ceremony. But they do have quite the balancing act. They have to balance between their native ways and contemporary society, between tribal law, state law, and federal law. It's a complicated way in which to live. There are about 8,000 to 9,000 people that live on the reservation, and unemployment is at 80%. That's 80%. The primary employers are healthcare, the school system, the tribe itself, including the Blackfeet Community College, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and some go off and fight forest fires on all of our behalf. So you can imagine it's a pretty tough place. High levels of poverty, high levels of diabetes, high levels of alcohol addiction and drug addiction. So a lot of people ask me, why do you go? What's your motivation? I go because it's our history and we're all interconnected. But I really go because I get to be a lot more than do. I get to be at the core of who I am as a human being. I get to stop and see, and I get to stop and listen. I listened to 89-year-old Ernest. He asked us to come and wash his windows, but he wouldn't let us begin the work until we sat at his kitchen table for 2 hours while he regaled us with stories of working on the white man's ranch. I go because nearly everyone that I've met there is an artist. Beadwork, quill work, singing, dancing, drumming, and many are ironically patriotic, which I find intriguing. Family is very important to the Blackfeet. This gentleman that you'll see in a moment is holding up a photograph of his great-grandmother in a textbook. Many people leave the reservation for jobs, the military, college, but most wind their way back to take care of their elders and for that sense of belonging. Bill Brown asked us to come out and paint his shed, but he wanted to ensure that these young City Slicker volunteers from Tampa and New Jersey had the proper headgear. And I guarantee those girls are going to remember this inspirational experience forever. Laura No Runner with the Boys and Girls Club wanted to make some jingle dresses, but Laura didn't know how to sew, and there was no sewing machine. But she believed. Fortunately, we were able to help her get started, and we did find a sewing machine, and the jingle dresses were made because Laura believed. We had a volunteer partner with the local library to offer a free photography workshop. This mom is looking at a photograph of her 3 children. It's the first photograph she's ever had of her 3 children together, as I stand here with a camera in my pocket. So this is what can happen if you take the road less traveled. You're probably going to find me there. So join me. We can see the world from the other side. And what greater gift can we bring than ourselves? We can change the world. We can make a difference. We can be a catalyst. We can inspire one another. And we can see hope in each other's eyes. As the Dalai Lama shared, if you ever think you're too small to make a difference, get in bed with a mosquito. Thank you.